track, at the wall, it's gone! Home run!
Turns on a ball, deep right field, and gone!
What a game, what a moment.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into this Tuesday bonus edition of Flippin Bats, which is this week in Shohei Ohtani news. And Alex, there might not have been a ton on the field for Shohei due to an injury, but there was a lot, I feel like, off the field with Shohei that we're going to discuss all about today.
And that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
You get moments to reflect when you're not playing, and he missed his 8th straight game, getting scratched on Monday after being in the lineup 2.5 hours before first pitch, then gets scratched. And this is the time when you can focus on other things. And that's what we're going to focus on today.
That is what we're going to focus on. So without further ado, it is time for my favorite segment this week in Shohei Ohtani news. We're going to talk about the potential for free agency and where he might go and what he might prioritize over something else. Is he still the American League MVP, despite, as Alex just said, not playing for 8 games straight? And some Mike Trout news that came out about the Angels that certainly needs to be discussed. So, Alex, let's start with what we've heard about the upcoming free agency with Shohei and what was said that he's prioritizing winning a championship over location, over being out west, which is something that we actually discussed months ago on the show of what is he looking for. And remember, we ranked we ranked it, and number 1 was winning. Yeah. And I do think, and this is the report here from Jim Bowden, Shohei Ohtani prefers the, quote, potential to win championships over his preference to play on the West Coast. Now, certainly there's locations that both of those are possible.
Yeah.
But I think winning is his number 1 goal. And we discussed that. And I do think he would like to find, this is speculation, I think he would like to find a place where both are possible. But, when it comes down to it, he wants to win, and he absolutely deserves that. And it's going to be quite the offseason.
Yeah, it really is. But when you think about a player of his caliber, someone we've never seen in the game of baseball basically carry a team on both sides of the ball. There was a point in the season where he was the leader of every single Angels stat offensively and on the mound. And when you have someone like that, that's literally giving 110% on a team that wasn't capable to even get him to the postseason his entire tenure with the Angels, he deserves to go to a place where he's going to play. He has not played in the postseason since coming over to Major League Baseball. And we really saw that fire and that ability to help a team win at the WBC when he was facing Team USA in Japan in that final game, and he came in to close. He pitched as a closer to face Mike Trout to come in and will Team Japan to win the WBC.
The world
we know
needs that.
The world needs that. We deserve to have Shohei Ohtani playing in the postseason and on a team that has the potential to win a championship. I mean, hands down, that's exactly what he should do, and it's what he's going to do. Yeah,
so I think who that gives hope to is any East Coast team that's in a win now mode, right? Not that if I were to rank where I think he's going to go, I wouldn't put an East Coast team at the top of the list, but there are East Coast teams that are ready to win. And if you are one of those teams, your hopes are certainly at least a little, all right, well, at least we have a chance if we want to.
So you're saying there's a chance.
If we want to fork over the money.
I mean, that's the other part too, is who's going to be able to afford the contract that Shohei Ohtani deserves, and who has a win now team. There's only a handful of teams that can really do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really thinking about it, I mean, we can talk about East Coast. How many East Coast teams right now, like
2?
Braves, Phillies. I mean,
Yankees aren't win now, but they could pay. Mets aren't win now, but they can pay. So that's also what you kind of have to weigh.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just not I still think a lot of I still think the most likely scenarios are out West.
Yeah.
And I'm not, yes, the report is he prioritized winning, which is great, but I think he can do that out West.
Yeah.
And, but what I do know is that this offseason, Alex, is going to be, this is going to be, I think, the most, certainly in baseball history, the most sought after, watched sort of free agency that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, probably the closest thing we've seen to it is LeBron James, The Decision, where you have the best in the game at that moment getting to choose where they want to go. It should be the most watched free agency situation, and it's definitely the most unique we've ever had in the game of baseball.
That's certainly what I would expect Shohei to do, is do a sit-down interview special and announce to the world where he's taking his talents.
Polar opposite, like media from the star, from LeBron James and Shohei Ohtani for how they're going to go about it.
Yes.
But as much star power, a player that can turn a franchise around.
Shohei has the potential to do the funniest thing possible, which is do a sit-down interview and announce that he's taking his talents to South Beach and play for the Miami Marlins.
No.
That is not happening.
No.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I think LeBron is really the only, I don't know, it's the only one coming to mind right now in recent memory. But there's certainly never been a baseball one like this. And we're talking still over $500 million.
Yeah.
I mean, despite everything and an uncertainty with his UCL, I still think we're talking over $500 million, and we're talking a guy that's going to transform an organization for a long, long time. And it's going to be quite it's going to be so much fun to watch unfold.
This is why I do believe, we've been talking about this, I think, since possibly the trade deadline rumors where he might have been traded somewhere, and Dodgers clearing a lot of cap space, like the beginning of the season, not going after any big free agents, kind of waiting for this moment. It still kind of feels like the perfect fit where Ohtani could be on a team that's a win now team and have a chance at a World Series and stay on the West Coast, which is better time-wise, viewing-wise for all of his fans in Japan.
I've felt like the Dodgers is the likely and best fit for a while now. I just feel like that's the one it's the Dodgers. They have the money. They are win now. And there are other West Coast teams, and I know that's not the priority, but there are other teams that are also in win now mode that I think are ready to win. And John Heyman came out with this list of teams that will be in on Shohei Ohtani, which at the top of that is the Dodgers. Not at the top. I don't know if this is in any particular order, but Dodgers, Padres, Cubs, Rangers, Giants, and Red Sox. And they're not there, but I'm going to add the Mariners just because would they be able to pay Ohtani? The Mariners have the money, and I don't think for years, I just feel like the Mariners have like gone all in, and sometimes it doesn't work, but it just feels like they are an organization that does have the money and the willingness to spend it. And I could see that. So I would add them to that list.
I mean, Ohtani also spent his offseason up there in Seattle too. And when we were there for the All-Star game, the fans are already...
What were they chanting? Come to Seattle?
Yeah, they were like, when he was, I think either when he was walking in, I think for his introduction, it was like, come to Seattle.
That's what he got a huge standing ovation during that. And then it was his first at bat. It was the come to Seattle chant, which I could see it.
Yeah.
And those are the lists that John Heyman came out with. But again, for me, I just think I've said this before: Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Mariners for me. And I know the Rangers were on that list, the Cubs. I don't know.
Do you consider the Padres a win now after their just blow up disappointment of a season with how much talent that they have?
Do I consider them win now? Yes. Do I think they're a winning, like they are certainly in a win now mode.
Yeah.
It obviously this year throws a little wrinkle in the, are they good enough? Like, can they win?
Yeah.
And look, if you just chalking this season up for the Padres, I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those seasons, and maybe I'm wrong. And we know I continued to believe in them for far too long. But like, if we were to start a season tomorrow, I'd be like, man, the Padres pretty good baseball team.
Because they still have like an all-star lineup, which is absolutely insane that they underachieved as strongly as they did.
But that they did. And so this offseason is going to be quite the situation. Where's he going to go? How much money is he going to get? None of that changes with the damage to the tear in the UCL and what that means and all of that stuff. And I know there's optimism around the diagnosis and everything, but regardless, none of that changes how much money he's going to make and the chaos about where he's going to go.
And then I think the big question this season is, he's still considered the American League MVP favorite right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question to ask. And I think without a doubt in my mind, the answer is yes. I think what I think is super cool about this season for Shohei is that if he didn't throw a single pitch all year long, he's the MVP of this season from what he's done offensively. And, you know, I do think it's a different conversation if Corey Seager was healthy all year long and is putting up the numbers that he has over the course of a full season. I think it would be a different and more difficult conversation to have. But as of now, I mean, it's Shohei could have stopped playing at the All-Star break and the guy's the MVP.
Okay, so if he doesn't play, obviously we know he wants to. He tried to yesterday. For the rest of the season. Do you think he can still hold on to that?
Yeah.
That
absolutely
being the favorite.
Yeah.
Then my next question, do you think he should play the remainder of the season? I mean, obliques are tricky and there's no timetable of exactly when you can come back from it. It's been 8 straight games and he tried to come back yesterday, scratched 2.5 hours before the game.
That's a different conversation, which we can have. But ultimately, you know, I think we have a pretty good understanding of the drive that Shohei Ohtani has at this point. And if he's willing, if he's healthy to play, he's going to play. And I just, and especially with what we've seen this week, from what we've heard, like he'll be back in Seattle and then he was in the lineup and then ends up scratched. I do think without a doubt we see him. I think this week, but the conversation of should we? And I think that's a conversation that is everybody should be able to have, and it's fine. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we all think. Honestly, it doesn't matter if Shohei tomorrow went to the Angels and said, "Hey, my oblique is acting up, and I think it's time to shut it down for the year." Then the Angels would. Ultimately, this decision comes down to Shohei, and the dude loves playing baseball, and he's not going to sit out the last 3 weeks of the season. He's just not. And we can have the conversation of should he. It doesn't matter. He's going to play. He wants to play. He doesn't want to be off the field. And we're going to see him this week back in the lineup. And absolutely, I think I'm excited to see him, because at this point, missing those 8 games, 50 is going to be tough. But I mean, let's see him in the last 3 weeks of the season go after 50. I mean, how cool would that be?
It would, but it's also one of his 2 injuries, or both of his injuries that he's dealing with, very much affect.
Yeah. We just got past this, Alex. You just got to a point where it was, you know what? But you're right. If Shohei wants to, then go ahead.
But I don't think we realize the severity of the oblique injury. Like, it's been 8 games. That's not just a minor tweak. Now you have 2 injuries that you're dealing with. And I don't know. Listen to your body.
I think he is.
It's like mental. He's listening to his mind and his like heart, and it's just like his need to be in the game, opposed to his body being like, hey, I'm a little tired. Maybe, I'm beat up.
Yeah.
Take care of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more Angels news. Alex. It came out over the last few days that the Angels, this was a report via Bob Nightingale and the USA Today, that the Angels would be interested in shopping around, trading Mike Trout if he were interested in a trade.
Yeah.
And I think, one, it's important to note, this is just a report, and it's just from USA. It's not, the Angels haven't come out and said publicly, like, yeah, we would be willing to trade Mike Trout. So it's just a report.
But things get leaked when franchises want them to get leaked. So they're not necessarily coming out and saying it, but it's kind of like planting that seed of like, hey, just keep this in mind. Our other star player is also possibly going to be available. which is crazy.
But why not?
Yeah,
right. If you're gonna lose Shohei, which I do think is going to happen.
Yes.
Why not? Why, and again, we talked about this earlier in the week on a show, but this ultimately comes down to what, if this is all, we're assuming that this report is true and that the Angels would be willing to. This ultimately comes down to what Mike Trout wants. He has a no trade clause. It's in his hands. He has his contract there for a long time. But if Mike Trout wants to win, the truth of the matter is then he needs to move elsewhere. And if he doesn't, and I'm not saying he doesn't want to win, but you can prioritize certain things, right?
Quality
and you absolutely
of life,
should.
Where you want to be.
Life, where do you want to be, how comfortable you are, how well you know an organization. Like, all of these things are factors in choosing where you want to play. And when you have a no trade clause, it's all in your hands. And Mike Trout, if he wants to win, should absolutely request a trade and go elsewhere. And if that's not his priority, if his priority is his loyalty to the organization and spending his entire career, there is something to be said about that, right? Like, you don't see that often.
Well, and his
anymore.
favorite player did that. Derek Jeter was his favorite player.
And you don't see it anymore.
No, and players don't, so loyal.
Players don't have these legacies anymore that they stay in one place forever. And, I think there is something to be said about that. And if that's the priority, great. But again, if the priority is winning, Alex, it ain't going to happen.
He needs to request a trade if he wants to win a championship.
For a while. I'm not going to put a timeline on it, but this season has just sent the Angels backwards. They went for it with Shohei.
They did.
They did. Respect. But the danger was it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah.
Should you really do it? They did it. But now they depleted a farm system, and the future is not bright for the Angels. So,
and everyone that they got, they put on waivers. So now they don't even have all the players that they traded for to deplete their farm system. And you're potentially now losing your 2-star players. So it's just, there is not a light at the end of the tunnel. But then if you look at the Mike Trout side, if he did request a trade, where do you see him going? Which, in my mind, my first thought is his favorite team growing up, the Phillies. But then you have Bryce Harper on the team. And there's always been this little weird thing between Bryce Harper and Mike Trout kind of coming up at the same time. Would that work? Would they want to be on the same team together? Yeah. I mean, Bryce recruited him in a way when he was a free agent. Yeah. But nobody really knows. No. Is there something? Is there not? Are they free? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. My mind goes to Phillies and, I don't know, for some reason, the Yankees. Well, yeah, because that was like his other favorite team. Yeah, Phillies. He's an East Coast Yankees, guy. He's from up in that area, New Jersey. And yeah, it just, I don't know. Is there a world in which in the same offseason, Shohei and Mike Trout get moved? I mean, the answer to that is yes. There is a world. And we're starting to realize that that's more and more of a possibility. But yeah, the Mike Trout news that the Angels would be open to a trade if he were willing to. And is there a world where both of them just go up the freeway and end up on the Dodgers? Yeah, you'd like that. A lot of Dodgers fans. Any Dodgers fans that would be like heartbreaking for Angels fans. I don't think so. Shohei, yeah. Trout, if Trout goes anywhere, I think it's East the Coast. Northeast, back east. But yeah, a lot off of the field, a lot of off the field talk this year. Conversations begin with Shohei and Mike Trout, but that does it for this week in Shohei Ohtani news. And Alex, that does it for this bonus. Wow, that looks great. And it's gone. And just like that. And we're done. And just like that, it's done. It's over. We're done. Oof. Ouch. That does it for this Tuesday bonus edition of Flippin Bats this week in Shohei Ohtani news. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever. We're also on all social media, including YouTube, where you can watch every single thing we do at Flippin Bats Pod on all of the social media. But that does it for this episode. Until tomorrow, my friends, this has been another episode of Flippin Bats. Peace.